I've never been the kind of person to care about neighbors. I always thought the best kind of neighborhood was the one where nobody got involved in each other's lives. But when that family moved in next door, something felt off. At first, it was just a strange feeling, an unease I couldn't explain. But then came the smell. A stench so unbearable it lingered in the air, thick and rotten, like meat left out in the sun. I thought it was a dead animal under their house or maybe a sewage issue. But over time, the smell only got worse. It didn't matter if it was windy or not. The odor seemed fixed in place, always clinging to the air, creeping in through the window cracks, seeping into my clothes. I tried to ignore it, thinking someone would eventually do something, but no one seemed to care. It was as if I was the only one who could smell it. I asked the condo manager, trying to be subtle, but her reaction was strange. She frowned, like she already knew exactly what I was talking about, then let out a sigh, avoiding eye contact. I've had 1 or 2 complaints, but I can't do anything without proof, she muttered. The way she said it, hurriedly, like she wanted to shut the topic down, bothered me. That night, after getting home late from work, I stepped into my backyard and smelled it stronger than ever, like it was being expelled from somewhere directly. That's when I noticed it. Right at the edge of their yard, near the property line, a large black plastic container, stained as if it had been dumped in a swamp and left to rot. That night, the smell was so strong, it felt like I could taste it. A bitter, nauseating taste that clung to my throat. I tried to ignore it, but my curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed a flashlight and crept up to the fence, separating my yard from theirs. The container was slightly open, and something was leaking out, forming a dark puddle on the dry dirt. My flashlight caught the slimy, glistening surface of whatever it was. The smell was unbearable up close, a mix of congealed blood and rotting waste. I swallowed hard, trying not to gag. My heart pounded as I leaned in just a little to get a better look inside. What I saw made me stumble back so fast I nearly tripped. Among that revolting sludge were the remains of animals, lots of them. Decomposing limbs, exposed rib cages, carcasses thrown together like they had been dumped without care. Fur, feathers, shattered bones. I spotted a snout among the mess. It looked like a dog. My stomach churned. Who in their right mind would store that in their backyard? The smell, the container, the way the neighbors never interacted with anyone. It all made sense now, and none of it was good. My mind was panicking, but my body was frozen. I wanted to leave, to pretend I had never seen anything, but my eyes wouldn't move away from the container. That's when I heard a noise. A sharp crack, like a branch snapping. My heart nearly stopped. I immediately turned off my flashlight and stood completely still, listening. Silence. But then, footsteps. Slow, dragging, coming from their back porch. The yard light switched on. My brain screamed for me to run, but my legs felt glued to the ground. The back door creaked open, and I saw a figure standing in the doorway. The light from inside cast only half of their body into view, but it was enough to tell they were looking directly at me. I couldn't see a face, just the shape of someone tall and thin, unmoving, like they were waiting for me to make the first move. A shiver ran down my spine. Then, as if they had made a decision, they took a step forward. That was all it took to snap me out of it. I spun around and ran back inside, slamming the door shut and locking every bolt. I spent the rest of the night sitting on the floor, back against the door, trying to slow my breathing. My hands were still shaking, sweaty as they gripped my phone. But I had no idea who to call. The police? What would I even say? Hi, my neighbors have a container full of dead animals in their backyard. If they even bothered responding to a call like that. I peeked out the window, trying to be discreet. Their house was dark again, but the feeling of being watched still crawled over my skin. The next day, I gathered my courage and went back to my yard, hesitant. The smell was there, but weaker. I took a few steps toward the fence and stopped. The container was gone. There was no sign it had ever been there. No dark stains on the ground, no slimy liquid dripping down the sides. Just freshly disturbed soil, as if someone had dug up the area and smoothed it over. I crouched and touched the dirt. It was still damp. They had done this overnight. I swallowed hard and stepped back quickly, a knot forming in my stomach. In the following days, the smell never returned. My neighbors, however, became even weirder, if that was even possible. I hardly ever saw them, and when I did, it was just glimpses. A door shutting too quickly, a shadow moving behind a curtain, and then, a week later, they vanished. Just like that. No moving trucks, no packed boxes. One night, the house was occupied. The next morning, it was empty. When I asked the condo manager, she gave me that same cautious look and shrugged. They left their keys at the office. Didn't say a word. I tried to put it behind me, but one thing still haunts me. The last time I saw one of them, a tall, thin man, he was standing at the front door, staring directly at me. He didn't smile, didn't wave. He just stood there, but it was what he was holding that made my blood run cold. A large black garbage bag, big enough to fit a small body. He lifted it slightly, just enough to make sure I saw it. Then he got into the car and drove away. I never heard anything about them again. The house stayed empty for months until a new family moved in. And as far as I know, nothing strange has happened since. But even now, every time I catch a strong, rotting smell in the air, my heart races. Because for a moment, my brain is convinced that the container is still out there, somewhere,